All right, everyone, going to be breaking down this college football slate, finding the best props for you guys to use on both PrizePicks and Underdog. Let's go ahead and get into it. So as always, I do like to start out with the sportsbook view from ODDSJAM. If you guys are interested in using this, make sure to use the promo code 905. The link to join their website is in the description below. You can find the best odds for each college football game, and say there's like a game in which you think there's an edge. You can see the numbers updated in live time. You can make the best bet possible across the sportsbooks. I like using it because we get the average odds for each game as well. And so what I'm going to be doing in this game is just focusing on the Saturday slates and kind of just the main games as well. So I'm going to start out. So we're going to start out with this Penn State versus Northwestern game. And the games I'm going to be targeting are going to be games that are kind of on the DraftKings main site, because those are going to be the games I think people are going to be concentrating on the most. So looking at right now, we got Penn State versus Northwestern. Right on paper, we can see this is probably going to be a game that we most likely want to stay away from. 46.7 for an over and under. We can see Northwestern is a big dog in this game. Okay, so really for the props that we'd probably want to be looking at would be, a prop that would suggest Penn State gets up early, but we know that we're probably going to get maybe 3.5 quarters out of them. Like, we're not going to get a full game most likely out of their starters. So that does make some of the props, but we could be on difficult. But let's just take a peek at the ones that we are getting for this game. So yes, kind of not shocking. It kind of goes both ways. Because Penn State is favored to win, I think we are seeing these lines be a little bit higher. At the same time, when a game is this high, you don't exactly know where the production is going to come from. You just know that there is going to be production there for that team. So Penn State, two of the props seemingly are a little bit too higher. I want to call out for their quarterback. The projection data likes it a little bit more, so maybe not one that you want to attack. But for Smith, we do see that they have a pretty low, or he has a pretty low fantasy score on the Vegas projection and also the 9-5 projection. And we can see 2 out of 3 games thus far. I guess 2 out of 4 games thus far this season's been under. And then just another thing we could potentially do to maybe just confirm or maybe get us off of a prop, maybe. We do see Northwestern is actually going to be a team that does give up a lot of receiving yards, okay? Not the most points, though, okay? About middle of the road on this slate. So that doesn't really move the needle for me one way or the other. We do see that Penn State is actually pretty good against defending the pass as well. So let's go back to the sheet. Are we getting any props that would suggest we want to roll with that? Maybe under receiving yards for Bryce here. But for the most part, we're getting 2 good props in this game. If you guys want to roll with these ones, you certainly could. Let's go ahead and move on into the next game. All right, so the next game, we got Clemson versus Syracuse, which on paper is going to be a much more appealing game, okay? It's a 7-point spread, which I do start to worry about games, blowout risk and players maybe not getting their full playing time at about a touchdown or so, but it is a pretty high over and under, so maybe that kind of cancels that out a little bit. And guys, for this game, we are going to see that we are getting a decent amount of props here. Man, they're saying bet the under on a lot of the props pretty much. We're going to see that some of them are going to correlate. Like for Allen's rush yards, we're being told to slightly bet the under there. So that's partially why the PrizePicks line is being valued a little bit high compared to Vegas. Now here seems to be a good one for the Clemson quarterback, and that's going to be the under fantasy score here. And we can see probably a pretty tight line that we are getting there. And I did just want to take a quick peek at that first game against Duke. Okay, just had a bad game in that one. 2 games that were blowouts, and he was able to get the over pretty easily there. Then this last game against FSU, which was a close scoring game, slightly didn't get the over there. So who was favored to win again in this one? It was Clemson by 7. So to me, that feels like less of a lock and load than what the data is telling us. Now let's take a peek at how Syracuse has played against opposing quarterbacks. On a points per game basis, Syracuse hasn't given up as much production as other teams. So maybe there is something there to betting that under, and that's probably why we are seeing the under being favored there. So I would say, that's a good bet. That's kind of a shoulder shrug bet. If you guys are trying to get some action on there or the games, by all means, you could roll with that one. Definitely doesn't feel like a lock yet. Through 2 games yet. We have 3 decent bets, especially given how the board views them, but no locks yet. And I hate using the lock board, but like bets that we wouldn't pass up on. Let's put it that way. Like no prop it as ever a lock. I think we got proved that with Thursday Night Football and Luke Musgrave. That made me a little bit upset. Josiah DeGuara had a pretty good game. You just give him his production and all the Luke Musgrave props cash. Obviously, that ended up being voided on basically every prop site, but you guys get the point. Can't really control it ever. You can just play the best situation. And guys, we're not going to get any props for this Utah State versus Connecticut game. It is a close game. Maybe there's something there. Let's move on to Florida versus Kentucky. We can see a very, very close game when we look at the average odds there. Now it's a low scoring game, but at least it's going to be a close. And so just taking a peek at those props that we were getting in this game, we got Robinson for under 49.5 receiving yards. Once again, slightly projecting it over there. That makes me feel like it's not a lock and load, but we can see the sports books are valuing it at 46.3. Underdog has it set at 47.5. So we can see with the sportsbooks data that we're being pulled in, the 49.5 for PrizePicks is the most amongst them. So that could be a situation in which maybe you're finding that prop bet on one of the sportsbooks. You want to bet the over, you could do that. For PrizePicks, though, it is telling us to bet the under. I don't dislike that one. And we can see we're getting a decent amount of props here. I typically like to look at 54% or higher. That is when we are gaining an edge on PrizePicks and the Underdog, the DFS prop sites. That's what I'm looking for here. All right, so let's take a peek at Devin Leary here, the Kentucky quarterback. 14.5 for fantasy score is very low. Okay. And he's kind of inconsistent, at least. I get into double digits. I'll pull this up on DraftKings here just to make sure. He is gaining some touchdowns, maybe a little bit too many mistakes. It does seem to be that Kentucky just hasn't been having to throw the ball that much. So given the fact that this game is a close scoring game, like we're not expecting that blowout. And so I'm kind of agreeing with that. Let's bet the over here. This feels like a pretty good one that we are getting. And let's just double check here. Let's see how Florida has done against opposing quarterbacks. I don't think that's going to change anything for me, but let's just take a peek. Okay, so Florida basically middle of the road. Average points given up 16. So yeah, the Kentucky quarterback should be able to get the over there. Let's roll with that. So we got our first good one here. And guys, this is something that I'm literally writing down right now. And I'm going to come back to it. But if you guys, are taking notes, I feel like that's always the best application to go ahead and use these prop bets. Use the ones that you like the most and make your best bets from there. These next ones, if you want to roll with them, you certainly could. Let's just go ahead and move on into the next game because we did find a good one that we want to roll with. Let's just take a quick peek though at this Robinson one, just in terms of receiver production that Florida's given up. So let's just take a look at yards. So, Florida, yeah, they don't give up that many receiving yards in general. So I would say the under checks out there. Now we move on into the next game, which is not going to be South Alabama, James Madison. I would say it's going to be this next one would be USC versus Colorado. Now, Colorado just got crunched. We all saw that. I thought that was kind of bad for college football because, kind of the hype of Colorado bringing in a lot of casual fans. It was kind of fun. And I don't think any of us are really going to expect them to really compete in this game now, especially with how good USC has looked. But that is a very high scoring game. Like Colorado, you expect them to be a little bit more productive on offense, fingers crossed, but this is telling us that USC is still going to score, right? That is a big output game for USC. So let's take a peek at the props that we were getting in that game. All right, so it feels like we are probably getting some tighter lines, but here's a good one for Underdog. Marshawn Lloyd for under fantasy score. We can see the sportsbooks are valuing at 16. The projection data is valuing at 17. And so we are getting a decent edge on PrizePicks with that. That'd be a good one to bet on Underdog, okay? The next one that we could potentially roll with here on PrizePicks, and this is another situation in which much better off betting the over on Underdog. And I want to call this out for the fantasy score ones in which they are pass catchers. I have went through and adjusted what the Underdog line would be using the PrizePicks scoring because there's the half point PPR receptions for Underdog as opposed to PrizePicks where it's full point. So I just want to make that clear. That number is going to be different on Underdog, but it does seem to be a good prop there. The only worry with this one for me is that the projection data only has it set at 11.5 for his over fantasy score for Washington. But those are two pretty good bets that we are getting. Do we need to roll with them? Maybe. It is going to be a soft matchup against Colorado. Maybe that's something you guys want to target. Caleb Williams, will he get over 3.5 passing touchdowns? That is crazy. Has about a 53% chance to hit. Guys, this one doesn't have that many legs. And if we look at like Colorado, we're not getting that many big ones for them. Sanders, fantasy scored, probably a better bet there. An Underdog if you want to bet the over. If you want to bet the under, you think they're going to get crunched, bet the under on PrizePicks there. And I find it weird that we're not getting any other Colorado-based props for that game. That's a little strange to me. So now in the opening kind of segment, we really only have Arkansas and Texas A&M for the 11 a.m. games. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So let's touch on those and hopefully we can get another good bet because right now we have one that's looking like a really strong one. So taking a peek at it, we got Texas A&M versus Arkansas. Okay. Almost a full touchdown difference. 6 points is a touchdown, yes, but I'm talking about touchdown extra point. And it's a 53.7 over and under, that's decently high. So hopefully we can get some good ones in this game. And we are getting our first good EV bet, it would appear, for Smith for over receiving yards. Okay. The sports books are favoring the over at 53.5 for receiving yards. PrizePicks currently has a line set at 50.5. The projection data is really liking him to get the over. I want to take a peek at why this might be occurring. No, it's not really a matchup thing. That's what I was curious about. Is it a matchup reason? Not really. I mean, they do give up a lot of touchdowns. Maybe if it was fantasy score, that would make more sense. But we do see the past 2 games he has been able to get the over. Let's take a peek more at his game log to see if this is going to be one that we want to attack, because right now it's a good EV bet and I love that. And so it just seems like, only 3 receptions in the first 2 games. This one was obviously a blowout. I'm trying to figure out, this probably was a blowout, but so was this one as well. Interesting. So sure, it probably doesn't feel like a big lock and load there, but still a very good EV bet. I think I'm going to write this one down. I feel pretty good about this, especially the fact that we are getting a good line on him. 3-yard difference, that might not seem like much, but that can be the really a huge difference, and long term it will be. I say that because sometimes, like, individually, especially for football, it's a little bit different than really MLB, golf, NBA for sure, whereas like 1 point difference, it's like that is huge. Now I will say, long term, you keep finding prop bets that are going to be a 3-yard difference or whatever. That's going to add up for football as well. And now the next one I want to take a peek at is going to be Arizona State versus California. Okay, that's going to be the 2 p.m. game there. We can see the over and under is kind of low, 47.2. And California is going to be favored by almost 13 points in this one. We're seeing some big discrepancies there, actually. Half a point here and there for some of these. So at 12, interesting lines for that game. And actually, as I scroll through this, we're not getting any props for that game just yet. And I'm guessing that's just due to kind of the quarterback uncertainty there in that game. It would appear to be that reason. Seems to be a lot of players out in that game, so I'm guessing that's why. We'll move on into the next game here. KU versus UT. Now, this game is a very high scoring game. 61.3 is the average over and under. And Texas is going to be favored by almost 16 points in that one. So kind of crazy there. Let's see if we're getting any good props in this one. And guys, just right out the bat, we are seeing that the lines are going to be pretty tight in this game. The best odd bets that we're getting is 53.27. So it's a little bit unfortunate, I would say. We are seeing that, at least for this one right here, the top one for Mitchell, that PrizePicks is maybe a little bit lower than others out there. Like the average sportsbook line has set at 43. The projection data, once again, really likes the over. Underdog has it set at 42.5. So it does seem to be a slight edge. Both teams not exactly like stayaways, but we do see Texas does give up a little bit more production in the air rather than does Kansas for opposing receivers. We had Jalen Daniels, rush yards, kind of looking like he under, but that is going to be one in which, once again, a better bet there on underdog. So it does seem to be a slate in which a better slate on underdog, where underdog is, we saw this last week as well, where underdog is just giving us a little bit better lines out there as compared to PrizePicks in terms of where we want to be attacking the slate. Now, here's a very interesting one. We typically don't see a big discrepancy like this. It's about 4-yard receiving difference. Once again, we just said Texas is probably the team that we want to be attacking for over. So I don't know if we exactly want to roll with this one, but 51.5 is definitely higher compared to the norm to the other props that are out there. And then from there, I feel like we're getting a little bit too low into the percent likelihood for a prop to hit. So once again, let's move on into the next game. Once again, I'm trying to find the best prop bets that are going to give us the best chance to have a profitable day on Saturday. All right, so the next game that we got here is going to be Georgia versus Auburn. Another game that's probably going to be a blowout, so I don't know if we're going to get that many good props on it. And it is a very low over and under at 45. Like, this is probably one in which we are seeing some unders we want to be attacking popping up on the 9-to-5 cheat sheet. Maybe that's the route that we go. Okay, so here we go. We are probably getting some better props in this game right now, so that is very nice. And we can see a fantasy score prop might be the best one that we're getting. Now, the projection data, once again, guys, a little bit favoring the over here for back, but compared to how the sportsbooks are viewing this game, they're giving him about the line at 17.4. Let's see what the production given up is. And first, I wanted to take a quick peek at his game log so we can see 3 out of 4 games has been able to get the over, although the lines have been pretty tight. Then let's look at back again. I mean, shoot, we can see why, right? We had 2 games that have been kind of close. One, he didn't play poorly, just didn't get the touchdowns. And then the other 2, just 2 games that were blowouts. And so once again, it is Georgia favored to win. And so I think that could be a cause for concern. And that might be why the under would be the way to go, is that just gets blown out too fast. And now this is not really a matchup that we probably want to be attacking anyways with the quarterback position. And maybe that's why we're seeing that the under is going to be one that maybe you want to attack. I'm guessing that's the biggest reason as to why. Or I was going to see if it was the fact that maybe running backs are giving up a little bit more production for the opponent. It's just going to be a run heavy game. Not really. So we can definitely make that bet. By all means, if you want to, roll with it. Let's move on into the next prop. We got Jay Fair for under 26.5 receiving yards. Once again, sportsbooks are kind of valuing it as a push at 24.5. Underdog has the line set at 24.5. So PrizePicks is a little bit higher at 26.5. Maybe not exactly one we need to go crazy with, but not a terrible one. Then we see another receiving yards prop, 21.5. Not a big edge there, but something you could roll with if you want to. Will the tight end Bowers have a good game? Let's just take a quick peek there. Probably not. I mean, maybe 58's not too much. So kind of a good one in this game. Let's go ahead and move on into the next game. And now the next game we're going to talk about is going to be Indiana versus Maryland. Maryland is going to be a 14-point favorite in this game, well, 14.5 or so. The game over and under is set at 50 points, so we'll see if we get some good props here. And guys, right now as it sits, really not getting that any favorable props. Basically, all of them are going to be pushes. Not much here. So once again, let's go ahead and move on into the next game. The next game being Michigan versus Nebraska. This is going to be a game that's probably going to be a blowout. Nebraska has struggled thus far this season, and it's a low-scoring game. So once again, we'll see if we have any good props here. Most likely going to be a stay away, but we'll take a peek. Yes, Michigan, that's right. And these haven't been adjusted, which is kind of strange to me. These were some prop bets that I called out to pair with the Thursday Night Football props that all hit, thankfully. Yes, that was on yesterday's video. But we have some correlated ones I will say as well. So one, we could bet the over receiving yards, like Edwards there. I feel like that's one that we probably just need to use because Underdog has the line higher, Sportsbook have it higher. This is a 2-yard difference. That might not be much, but it adds up. And for what it's worth, Nebraska does give up a decent amount of receiving yards to running back. And Edwards there, we can see 3 out of the 4 games thus far this season has been able to get the over. So that is something that we certainly like. And to me, it's just strange that they haven't changed it yet. I guess if you want to do it both ways, like maybe they're trying to trap us into that. No, I feel like it's the correct decision. I was going to say, if you want to bet the opposite on Underdog, bet under you could, but no, that feels like a good one. I'm going to write that one down. 3 out of 4 times he's hit. Nebraska is in a plus or minus, and we're seeing that we're getting a 2-yard difference. I like that. And then another one that's pretty similar is Loveland. Now the percent likelihood of this one hitting has went down slightly, a very slight amount. It was like 54% at the start of the week. Now it's down a little bit, but certainly one that you could still roll with if you choose to do so. And then because the game's a blowout here, we are seeing maybe an under bet be the way to go. And once again, we are seeing a little bit of a decent one there here. So we got 3 total bets through like 7 games that should be good bets. To continue on, if you guys do want to do McCarthy for over passing touchdowns with Harbaugh back, let's see. Did he have 2 last game? He did not. Okay, that's the only game in which he didn't. That game was a blowout. I mean, they've been blowing out teams. You would assume he would, but yeah, you never know. That's why I say about blowouts. It's like you never know who's going to be the one getting that production. It could be running backs. They could spread it out. It's college football. They tend to spread out, I feel like, a little bit more. And now taking a peek at Illinois versus Purdue. This is going to be a game that hopefully, I really hope we're getting some good ones. There might be some stackability here because 2 reasons. It's a close scoring game. We don't have to worry about the game, potentially blowing out and maybe losing out on some playing time and production from some players. But also 53.9 average over and under for this game. This should be one that we can attack. Fingers crossed that we are getting some good prop. And sort of... I was hoping we would get some good fantasy score props in this one. And I mean, this is not terrible. Hudson Card for over 19.5, but we are getting a lot of good EV bets in this game at least. So Hudson Card, that's why the fantasy score is popping up over 1.5. Passing touchdowns. Let's take a peek at kind of this game in general. I want to look at the matchups in this. So let's just look at quarterback. Average points given up. Illinois has given up a decent amount to opposing quarterbacks. Purdue has given up a decent amount to opposing quarterbacks. Both have given up 6 touchdowns as well. Yards wise, pretty high on this slate as well. So that's a good start. So the Card one, probably rolling with that one. All right, let's look at points per game. Illinois has given up a lot to opposing running backs. Purdue right on up there as well. We're seeing Illinois, maybe we're favoring a little bit more. Receiver production, let's take a quick peek. Points per game drops off a little bit for these guys in comparison to other teams, but definitely not a stay away. So if we are trying to find a game to stack, this might be the game to stack. Now, what do I hate? I hate that PrizePicks is scheming it that way on their site. Now let's take a quick peek at this one. 21.5 for receiving yards. And I'm very curious, why is this such a discrepancy? I would say 3 out of 4 games he's kind of crushed the over. Maybe it's the fact that it's a Big Ten game, but we saw this is going to be a high scoring game. I don't know, to me that more or less seems like a good chance to bet the over on one of the sports books rather than make that bet on Prize Picks. Now, okay, that's why. Little fluky-ish production, a lot of big air yard plays there. And I think we could tell just by the pricing of him that he's not someone that plays a lot. So I guess we can roll with this one. Just going with a good EV bet. Trusting Vegas, trusting the projection data. Let's bet the under there. I don't like betting unders. You guys know that by now. But we're going to write that one down. And then what other ones? Under fantasy score. I don't know if I like that. We can see pretty aggressive number, though. And honestly, it does feel like maybe Prize Picks is trying to be sneaky, knowing that this is a game people want to be attacking. Now, I probably would say we don't need to bet the under fantasy score in this one. We already saw this is probably one that we would want to probably be attacking the over on, honestly. So I'm just going to stay away from that one. Now we're getting to probably the ones that we want to be going with. We got over rushing yards here. Ignored the projection. Underdog has the line set at 22.5. The average sportsbook line has set 23.5. So 21.5, we can see we are getting a decent edge there. Now, he is someone that, I don't like college football because you can rush the ball a lot. And if they count it like NFL rushing wise for quarterbacks, then he probably would be a really strong bet to get the over there. Now, based off what we saw, like Purdue's not going to present that much hesitation for him to pull the football and run. And let's just look at like rush yards given up. Purdue has given up the most rush yards. So I am talking myself into this one. We're getting 2 props in this game. And maybe this is just a one-off thing that you'd rather just stack this game. And I say that just because in case this game doesn't go the way that we would think. And just don't get sacked, buddy. Don't get. And then from there, Hudson Card, I think that's going to be a good one. That's a very good EV bet that we have right now. I'm going to be favoring a little bit more of the overs. And so over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Let's just take another quick peek at this one again. Touchdowns given up, I think it was 6 each through 4 games. That's not that much. That's kind of the worry. Purdue has given up a lot of rushing touchdowns. Illinois, who we're concerned about here, not too many interceptions, 3. Let's just take a quick peek at Card. Whew, that's ugly, right? Has only gotten the over once. Now let's take a quick peek at the game log as well. I was wondering, I'm like, okay, so really based off how Vegas thinks this game's going to go, I would say these 2 games are better examples of probably how he'll play. Whether or not he gets those touchdowns, I don't know. Good EV bet. I'm not going to put it on the slate for today. Let's move on to the last game for this slate. And guys, I will be touching on the evening games as well, but that'll just be kind of highlighting it. It won't be as in depth. And actually, guys, we're not getting any props for this game just yet. So let's go ahead and move on into those evening games. All right. So I mentioned, I just want to show you guys this. If you guys kind of want to do the deep dive the way that I just did it, by all means, go ahead and do that. And the reason why I'm not touching on these ones as much is because we're not getting as many lines out there for these games just yet. They do tend to favor the earlier slates, so there's just not as much to cover. Okay, Spencer Rattler, if you guys want to bet under fantasy score, we are seeing that could be a good one. And for what it's worth, been a little bit hit or miss in that game, or game log wise. And that's looking like it's not a bad bet. A pretty good EV bet that we are getting right here. This is a really good EV bet. Like, we might even put this into the slip because we're seeing that this is a good EV bet. Griffin for under receiving yards. Not only does Vegas think that he's going to get the under at 55.5, but we're getting the line at 57 on Prize Picks. So that is a pretty good line there. Then we're getting another one, kind of same ordeal there. Like, that's definitely one you could stack together there, I would say. And then that's it for like the lines that are going to be over 54%. Now let's just take a quick peek at this one. Jordan Waters for Duke under 43.5 rush yards. And we can see about 3 out of 4 games he has gotten the over. Last game very much did not get there. All right, so we have a good idea of what the best bets are, I would say. Let's go ahead and make a slip. All right, so here we go. Here are the best bets for Saturday on the college football slate. If you guys want to roll with these, by all means you can. If not, I get it. We went through the process. You guys can decide for your own whether or not you guys agreed with that process. Fingers are crossed. We have a lot of good EV bets here, so let's have a good week. That's going to be all for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. If you did, make sure to give a like and subscribe. If you guys want access to the 9 to 5 cheat sheet, make sure to be clicking the link in the description below. That cheat sheet is available for just $10 a month. Make sure to check out the ODDSJAM as well. Use the promo code 9 to 5 if you guys want access to their sportsbook cheat sheet.